One of the smartest guys I know is a veteran talk show host, author, attorney, documentary filmmaker. I have the distinction of getting to take a group of listeners with Larry Elder to Hawaii on a cruise. We had a great time. Larry is officially a Republican presidential candidate, and the sage of South Central joins us live here on the Mike Gallagher Show. How have you been, my friend?
I've been great, Mike. I'm calling you from beautiful Nebraska. I was in Iowa yesterday. I'll be in New Hampshire down the road. As you know, this is a long, grueling marathon. But real quickly, I've got a prediction for you on the on the cocaine White House story.
Good.
O.J. Simpson will find the killer or killers of Ron and Nicole before we get to the bottom of who brought in that blow.
Hey, hold my beer. I got one better for you. I think it was the pipe bomber from January 6th that planted the cocaine, because same guy. You know, he's a real slippery rascal, that pipe bomber that they can never seem to manage to find.
But you're right about the the sweetheart deal that Hunter Biden got. I mean, this is an administration that says rich people don't pay their fair share in taxes. The guy didn't pay taxes for a couple of years, and this is an administration that claims America is awash with guns. Here he is lying on his application for a firearm. He could have been sentenced to several years based on legislation that Joe Biden pushed for when he was in the Senate, and he got a slap on the wrist.
Now, Larry, let's talk a little bit about where you are right now in this race, because as I've said a million times, this country would be real well served to have President Larry Elder. You got a mountain to climb. You got a big job ahead of you. And I guess job one is to try to get on that debate stage. And I'm trying to follow the rules here. I guess the rule is you got to have 40,000 unique donors, including 200 unique donors in at least 20 states or territories. How's that process going for you? And have any of my fellow Salem hosts put their money where their mouth is, like I have in supporting the Larry Elder for President campaign?
I'm going to punt on that last question.
Well, let's put it this way. Well, let's just keep it between you and me. I put my money. I made a donation to your campaign, as I've done in the past. I contributed to your gubernatorial race because we're friends, and I know what an incredible man of integrity and a leader you would be. So I'm happy to put my money where best money I've ever spent.
And you did it twice. You did it both in the gubernatorial and you did it in the presidential. Put it like this, Mike. If I had a Mount Rushmore of all the Salem hosts who've doubled down, so far your face is the only one up there.
I'll go solo. I'd be solo Mike. All right. Well, that's all right. My big fat face, there's only room for one face on Mount Rushmore in my case. So
now, as for the criteria, you're right. 40,000 individual donors. You have to have 200 from 20 different states. Plus, you have to have 1% in the polls, and you have to turn over your donor list to the RNC after you've done all of this. Last time in 2020, the Democrats required you to either have 1% or a certain number of donors, but not both. So it seems to me this is pretty onerous. If you're an establishment candidate with 100% name recognition, that's one thing. But if you're me, it's another thing. And so we're doing it. Working hard to get to that level. And as you know, once I get up there, it's going to be game on. And I think I bring a couple of things to the table the others don't. Obviously, I'm an America First, Make America Great Again candidate. But also, we need to talk about the 10,000-pound elephant in the room, and that is the epidemic of fatherlessness, Mike. 70% of black kids enter the world today in America without a father in the home, married to the mother. That's up threefold from the mid-'60s when Lyndon Johnson, the Democrat, launched a so-called war on poverty. Since then, we've incentivized women to marry the government and incentivize men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And the numbers are stark. When you're raised by a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. I've got some ideas about what we can do about that. Then there's that big lie the Democrats always push, and that is that America is systemically racist. It pushes this debate on CRT, the debate on reparations, debate on DEI, when in fact it's a murderous lie, because the police are pulling back. It's called the George Floyd effect or the Ferguson effect. And there are thousands of people who've been victimized by violent criminals or who are dead, who otherwise wouldn't have been victimized, otherwise wouldn't be dead. if the police were doing their normal proactive policing. This lie is causing heartache on the very people, black and brown people, living in the inner city that the Democrats claim that they care about. And then there's this tragedy of urban government schools. 13 public high schools in Baltimore. I kid you not, Mike. 0% of the kids can do math at grade level. 53 public schools in Chicago. 0% of the kids can do math at grade level. 85% of black eighth graders, these are 13-year-old kids, can neither read nor do math at grade level. Half can't even do basic reading, which means a substantial percentage of black 13-year-old kids in America are functionally illiterate. The Democratic Party, of course, opposes school choice, which studies have shown to improve test scores, improve graduation rates, because they're wedded to the hip with the teachers union. And then we've got these soft on crime George Soros DAs on my website, LarryElder.com. I propose model legislation that states can use to set up commissions of retired judges, retired DAs to investigate complaints by citizens and to get rid of these soft on crime George Soros DAs. And finally, Mike, we've had this big debate over increasing the debt ceiling. You and I have been around long enough to know they always increase the debt ceiling. Nobody wants to be responsible for default. Nobody wants to shut down the government. So the can just get kicked down the road. Government grows under Democrats. Government grows under Republicans. The only way to restrain spending is with an amendment to the Constitution to fix spending to a certain percentage of the GDP, with exceptions for war and for natural disaster. And if you fail to do that, you cannot run for re-election. That's the only way we're going to do this, because if you run claiming you're going to rein in the entitlements or reform the entitlements, whatever word you want to use, you are going to lose, because the other side will accuse you of not caring about the poor, not caring about the sick, not caring about the elderly. So the only way to restrain these programs and do something about them down the road is to pass a law that makes Congress do so.
Now, I know that you getting on the debate stage is a game changer, because that would certainly inject you into this national conversation about who we should support as the Republican nominee in 2024. I want to mobilize our audience because as I understand this, again, you got to get 40,000 unique donors, 200 unique donors in at least 20 states or territories. I've got I want to just give our audience exactly the way to go right now. Whatever you can kick in, as my buddy Larry Elder always puts it, see what you can put into the kitty and help out Larry's candidacy. I've got two websites, elderforpresident.com or larryelder.com. What's the most efficient, effective way for our audience? Which site should they go to?
Either one works. And as you pointed out, you can kick in as little as $1. I just need 40,000 individual donors. You can give as little as $1. And even if you want a different candidate, at the very least, don't you want me to talk about, don't you think we ought to be talking about the epidemic of fatherlessness and the lie about systemic racism and the need for school choice in urban America, the need to get rid of these soft on crime George Soros DAs, and the need to rein in spending? If I can put those issues front and center, Mike, I will feel that I've given back to my party and, more importantly, given back to my country.
I got a 3-page email from a California resident about 6 months ago saying everything you represented in your gubernatorial campaign is what California desperately needs. Your vision, your views, your ideology, your brand of conservatism, your ability to fight, because you can roll up the sleeves. I mean, you don't, and you do it with a smile on your face. I mean, you really are on many, many levels the perfect presidential candidate for the times we're in. And yet you got some giant killing to do here. Everybody sort of assumes this is a Trump DeSantis race, but I've got other people who continually remind me we're a long way away from that. We got 6 months to go before the first primary. Ultimately, you get a Larry Elder into the ring, you get a Vivek Ramaswamy, you get some solid conservatives in there to mix it up. Anything could happen.
That's right. And I've written a book about the California campaign, what's happened to the Golden State because of the supermajorities of Democrats in the Senate, the supermajority of Democrats in the Assembly. And I've talked about what I will do as president of the United States. It's called As Goes California, my mission to rescue the Golden State and save the nation. It's available for pre-order on Amazon or on Barnes & Noble, comes out in September. My goals are modest. I just want to rescue California and save the nation.
Save the country. It's just a small thing. The bar isn't high. The great Eldersky is with us here on the Mike Gallagher Show. He, of course, is a Republican presidential candidate. And again, with your help, he can get on that debate stage. So go to LarryElder.com or elderforpresident.com. Kick in $1, $5, $10, whatever you can afford. I went a little higher than $1 because I believe in this guy. And I was happy to do so.
You went a lot higher, and I really appreciate it. You know, Mike, when Tim Scott got into the race, and he got in after I did, I get a bunch of phone calls from liberal media. What distinguishes you from Tim Scott? You're both black Republicans. I said, when Donald Trump got into the race in 2016, did you call him and say, you know, you're both white Republicans. What distinguishes you from Jeb Bush? Silence on the other end.
Funny how that doesn't. Funny how that works. It doesn't really go both ways. No, now let me deal with the 800-pound elephant in the room here. I've got like 25 text messages in the last 3 minutes from listeners who are saying the same thing over. And these are people from Tennessee, Florida, California, New York, New Jersey. They're all saying the same thing: Trump elder 2024. So I got to put you on the spot and ask you, have you ever had that conversation with President Trump? I mean, I know he's fond of you. In fact, he and I have spoken about you before. I know what he thinks of you. What's the possibility of a Donald Trump Larry Elder ticket in 2024?
I was asked about that recently, and I said, if Donald Trump calls and the phone rings with that kind of offer, I won't let it go to voicemail. And then the headline was, Elder angling for vice president. No, Elder is angling to be president. I was asked a question. I answered the question, and the question was, if Donald Trump is a nominee and he calls you and asks you to join the ticket, I said that I would listen to the call. That's all I said, and that was translated into, Elder has a secret plan. His goal all along is to be VP. No, it's not.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a straight shooter, and I've gotten to know you over the years, and I have tremendous respect for you. I don't envy the mountain you have to climb because it's not going to be an easy task. But then again, you've tackled your whole life that way. You've broached things that have been unbreachable. You've always done this, so this is not a new journey for you.
Well, you know, when you've been called the black face of white supremacy, there's not a lot of runway left. Shortly after I got on radio in California years ago, I'm walking down the street, and there are a couple of black guys smoking cigarettes on a fence, and they called me over, and one of them said, you know, I love you and I hate you. At first, I really hated you, but the more I listen to you, the more I realize you're like castor oil. It don't taste good going down, but it's good for you. Keep it up. All you're doing is telling us to work hard, not whine, and take advantage of this country. And it's a solid message, and now I support you. So I think the more people hear me, the more they listen, the more they get off the ledge, and they realize that they may not be on my side, but I'm on their side. We all want the same thing, at least I hope we do, and that is to make sure that we realize our God-given potential.
You have the ultimate pro-America message, and you are the American success story, Larry. And I'm proud to call you my friend and very happy to be the lone face on the Mount Rushmore of Salem donors to the Larry Elder for President campaign. Happy to do it, and I'd do it all over again. If I got elderforpresident.com or larryelder.com. Come back and keep us posted, Larry, and you keep fighting the good fight, my friend.
You got it. Thanks a lot for the time, Mike. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. Larry Elder on the Mike Gallagher Show, larryelder.com or elderforpresident.com. And, man, you see him on that debate stage. Now you got a party. Get the popcorn out, huh? 800-655-Mike. And what do you think about a Trump Elder ticket? I know I asked him that before, and he's right. I mean, he's not going to not take the call, but he's running for president. But how would you feel? How do you like the idea of a Trump Elder ticket in 2024?